Welcome to Format 360. I'm your host tonight, Jeremy Shea. We're going to be talking about political satire in Alaska with Alaska Robotics. Alaska Robotics is a label that Pat Race, Aaron Suring, and Lou Logan use, and they've been using since about 2007 for their creative projects. Those projects include short films, comic strips, drawings, and other things that they put out on the web, their retail store here in downtown Juneau, and at some film festivals too. They recently kickstarted a campaign to do a series of political news shorts, and they've committed themselves to putting out 6 of those news shorts over the course of the 2014 legislative session. Let's all welcome Alaska Robotics to Format 360. Let's just begin. Why don't you guys just explain what Kickstarter is for people that don't know, and why you chose that medium to raise for your project.
Okay. Yeah, Kickstarter is like a crowdfunding system. So you can basically say, I have a project, and you can get a bunch of different people to contribute to making that project happen. And there's like a threshold where if you don't cross that threshold, say in our case it was pretty low, it was $3,000. If they don't cross that threshold, then they don't get funded and the project doesn't happen. But if it does cross that threshold, then the project happens, and you are basically a patron of the arts that way, and it's a way of crowdsourcing fundraising.
And it's more than just TV or videos and stuff. You can do art and
Scarves and socks. And
video games and
various technologies and stuff too, yeah.
Yeah, so this was your first time as Alaska Robotics using it?
Yeah, this is our first time as anything using it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've definitely supported a lot of projects on there. I've supported like albums and art and dance and things like that. But actually, I don't know if I supported dance, but I've supported a lot of different projects on there. And this is our first time using it to raise money for one of our own projects. So it's really interesting to see how that works. And like different people have different methods. Like some people will put in a really low goal, and they'll try to have what are called stretch goals, which are like kind of beyond that. Like if we raise X number of dollars, we'll do this. But if we raise this many dollars, we'll do so much more, and it'll be fantastic. Okay. And so, so we kind of went with that method.
Okay. So we've got a clip of part of your pitch that you used in your Kickstarter campaign that I'd like to share. So let's take a look at that.
I think political satire is incredibly important. It's the only reason I know anything about anything. I grew up watching Weekend Update on SNL, Dana Carvey's Bush and Perot impressions. I love Monty Python, and everything they're doing on The Daily Show is incredible. I want to localize that kind of political satire, and with these episodes we're going to try and include links to relevant news articles. We want to have some guests on the show to share their opinions and to make fun of themselves, and we want to hold people accountable. So if that sounds like something you're on board with, I hope you'll support us, and I hope you'll get all of your friends to give us all of their money too. And we will work very hard and do our best to create a completely kick-ass news program for Alaska.
So why do you think political satire is important? What would Alaska be missing out on if your Kickstarter had failed?
Well, I'm really glad you included the little Frank Murkowski clip in there. I think political satire is something that helps people digest complicated issues. I think that sometimes it oversimplifies them, but it gives you a thread to hang on to. When you maybe don't understand, there are so many big issues in Alaska. I mean, if you look into oil, like say the oil tax, the Senate Bill 21, and all of that everything that entails, I don't think that there's any one person in Alaska that can understand every aspect of that. And I think it's our job as a community to kind of attack it in pieces and try and make a good decision for ourselves. And so I think political satire is a way of kind of lassoing people and bringing them into a question. And so maybe it's something funny and absurd at first, but then they start asking like, okay, what's the joke here? And to understand the joke, you have to understand the issue.
Yeah, it provides a way in. It's entertainment in a way to people that feel like they don't want to bother with something that's really hard to understand. So yeah, it's just entertainment, and it's a way of like starting in that conversation.
Okay. You set fundraising goals at $3,000, $8,000, and $20,000 with your Kickstarter campaign. So when it wrapped, how much did you end up actually raising in total?
$8,200 and something, plus about $700 in like off the table secret donations.
Greasy, oily bags and secret handoffs.
Yeah, my favorite one was this guy came riding his bike down the street and handed me a brown paper bag when I was walking home from lunch, and it was yeah. So yeah, we got some people because of like their political affiliation, or like they work for the government or whatever it is, that they couldn't participate in a become a public sponsor of the project, but they wanted to like say like, hey, I support what you're doing, and I can't have my name on it, but please go do it and make it happen. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to bring up that figure. So about $8,900, $9,000-ish.
I'd say probably about
like.
9,000. Probably about
just under.
Yeah.
It's such a contrast. It's just so modest compared to the amounts of money that they deal with in the Alaska legislature, in the oil industry.
It's true.
Campaigning.
Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah.
So when you set your goals, did you have that in mind? Did you have that contrast in mind, or what was the rationale for setting those goals?
We wanted to raise the amount of money. Like, we wanted to make some money so we can make a news program. I mean,
but we also wanted them to be attainable, and we don't have the kind of depth of resources that they do. So I mean, it's just
our hands aren't in the legislators' pockets yet. So just wait.
Yet keyword.
No, I think we tried to set realistic goals for ourselves, and based on other projects that we like funded or participated in, it's easy to observe that like, okay, if you have an audience, how supportive will they be? And then we kind of balance that with how much money do we actually need to pull this off. And we kind of erred on the low side of like production costs. So I mean, I imagine that like this studio that we're in with the 3 cameras and all the operators and all that, I mean, if you put all that money into a budget, like you guys probably are pretty close to where we're at for our like entire project. And so like I think what we're doing, we've always done really low to the ground, and we just want to be able to continue doing it, and we want to be able to like feed ourselves while we do it and be able to pay rent and things like that. So a lot of times these are projects that we would do anyways, and it's nice to be able to be compensated for doing them.
But you're not getting rich off of $9,000.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, if
What's
we
your
invested
definition of rich?
in
I'm
bitcoins.
$1,000 now.
Do you have a sense for who backed your project? Was it businesses or the news junkies or sort of the Film Fest crowd?
We got a lot of friends and family mostly. I mean, that's the core group. We got donations from out of state, a lot of surprising donations from out of state. People that were really supportive of just our like short film work and comics and things like that, and just kind of want to be behind anything that we make. And then a lot of people just from around the state that do care about politics and have seen some of the things before, and like really like Downtown versus the Valley, or really liked Buyback Alaska, and like I want to see what you guys make next, and that kind of support.
I was really surprised by the number of people that I didn't know on the list. I was expecting there was going to all be people that I've met in one capacity or another, have supported some other projects, or I have been introduced to along the way. But yeah, there was actually a fair number of names that I had never heard before.
And I see some faces here.
Yeah.
So you got past that 1 degree of separation of people.
Yeah,
that
oh,
found it
absolutely.
out.
And that's the interesting thing about that whole Kickstarter platform is you put it out there and anyone can find it and anyone can contribute to it. So maybe there's just someone that's like a political science junkie or a satire junkie that like, okay, cool, let's see what they do in Alaska. That sounds kooky. So yeah.
Okay. In one of your early shorts, you guys said it would cost about $250,000 to rent a legislator for a session. That short was called Buyback Alaska.
Yep.
We'll take a look at it, but before we do, could you kind of set us up and give us a little history on what was going on in the state at the time when you put that together? It was about 2007, I think, when this came out.
Yeah. Do you know what was going on at that time, Aaron?
Who knows what was happening?
That was during the Vico
That was a long time
scandal.
ago.
So that was like that was the whole Bill Allen, like FBI raiding the Capitol building. I mean, that was a big time, and that was also kind of a time in my life when I was starting to pay more attention to politics, and it's like, oh, hey, the FBI is like yarding people out of their offices and like confiscating file cabinets, and it was
secret cameras in the Baranoff.
Yeah, and
stuff.
I was just shocked at how little anyone cared about it. Like, and I still am. I mean, I don't feel like as a state we've really processed that. I think it's like it's something that we haven't digested or thought about, and we just want to ignore. And that's something that like still shocks me to this day. So that was going on. Like, okay, people are being pulled out of their offices. We've got like a huge percentage of people that are in powerful legislative positions making decisions about oil taxes that are apparently being, paid in favors by the oil companies, and we don't really care too much about it other than to say like, oh, that's shocking, but it's not. And yeah, so anyways, that was the time period. That was what was happening in the world. And our proposal was that instead of, if the oil companies can come in and pay the legislators to work for them, why not us, the citizens? Why can't we go in and pay the legislature to work for us and represent our interests?
And
so
it was surprising at how cheap they were.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I read about it and heard about it, I thought, how much are these guys getting? And then what was it?
It was like a couple thousand
Coring
bucks.
got 4,000 or something. I might be wrong. I can't remember.
No, it was like
exactly,
$4,000 was
was,
one
yeah.
of them, and
Some weren't even that.
Just a roll of bills,
Some of them were just promises. It was like, oh, okay, you can have a prison job in Barbados when you I really want to be the prison warden. So,
Okay, well, let's take a look at that. It's about 2 minutes long, and we've got it queued up.
all right.
Hi, I'm Lou Logan,
And I'm Pat Race.
and
We're Alaskans. We want you to help us buy back the state legislature. Did you know that each state legislator only makes $75,000 a year?
Wow, only $75,000 a year? How do they feed their children and fuel their SUVs?
That's a good question, Lou. Because they're paid so little, they're forced to find income from other sources.
You mean like bribes and consulting fees?
That's right, Lou. Based on recent ethical violations, our political scientists estimate that the cost of renting an Alaska state legislator for a session is about $250,000, although some can be had for much less.
Well, there are 40 representatives and 20 senators, so that means we'll need $15 million to buy them all.
Not if we just spend $10 million and buy a supermajority.
I like the way you think.
$10 million split over a population of just over 663,000 means that it would cost each Alaskan only about $15.
Just imagine what it would be like if the citizens controlled the government.
Communities could build things like harbors, parks, sewage treatment plants, and swimming pools.
Swimming pools with water slides?
That's right, Lou. Water slides.
But who do I pay? How does this all work?
It's easy, Lou. When you apply for your PFD this year, just check the box that says, I want the government to work for me, and we'll automatically deduct $15 from your check.
Wow, that's great, Pat. With this plan, we can hire the legislature to work for us, the people of Alaska, and it only costs $15 a year.
That's less than the price of a South Franklin Street hooker, Lou.
Now that's what I call a bargain.
So,
Can you tell that Lou and I went to acting school?
Did you see that hair?
yeah, what's going through your minds now after seeing this? Is,
changed.
it's something
They
like
look the
6
same.
years old.
I look taller than I am.
That's trick of the camera.
Yeah.
I wish I had known about haircuts. But still do.
It looks like it looks like your production values have also gone up quite a bit. And we'll see.
Well,
Some
the technology is a
stuff.
lot more accessible. Like we have, it's just that was filmed in that awkward time when digital was this new thing, and you had this kind of crunchy standard definition that you were limited to, and to get an HD camera, you had to have $100,000, and so that's now we can afford to work in HD, and so the production quality's improved not only because we've gotten better at it, but because the equipment's a lot more accessible and a lot easier.
What were you shooting that on at the time? Do you remember?
Lou can tell you probably the exact model, huh?
It was a mini DV cam. I can't remember exactly.
It was a Panasonic.
Panasonic something.
HMC. No,
No, that's the new one.
HDC something. Anyways, I don't remember.
It's probably sitting in a pile somewhere in your office.
It is.
It is, yes. We still,
Yeah.
Still have used it.
So you've said that your upcoming shorts, no one gets immunity, and that you'll take people on from either side of the aisle politically. But right now the aisles are just so lopsided, politically. The power is so consolidated with the Republican supermajorities in the state level, at least. Do you think you'll be able to make good on that promise?
Well, we didn't say it would be equal, right? So I think we're going to try and find humor where there is humor, and find issues that are entertaining and maybe need to be brought to light.
So depends who's doing what. If the Democrats aren't doing anything, then there's not much to make fun of other than the fact that they aren't doing anything.
Exactly. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, if the Democrats are totally powerless and can't do anything and can't pass any legislation, then that's something that's funny and we can make fun of as well. But we don't want to be. I don't want to be a bully, like a schoolyard, like, I'm making fun of you because your last name is hard to pronounce, and I mean, which I do, but but I don't want to just do that kind of humor. I want to do the kind of humor that like invites discussion, and so hopefully what we're doing isn't too mean and can be taken with a grain of salt. But we'll see how that goes.
Do you identify with particular political parties, or are you willing to say?
Yes.
Depends. No, I don't say that I wouldn't go one way or another. It depends on the person who's behind it, but yeah.
I'm nonpartisan.
Yeah, I actually, I was registered as a Republican when I was in high school, when I first registered to vote, because my dad was a Republican, and so I was like, that's the one for me. And then a guy tried to pick a fight with me at Pelmani because I was registered as a Republican, and so I decided that I would switch to like undeclared, and so I did that, and I found that I really don't like partisan politics very much, and so I try to listen to ideas from both sides, and I'd say that I'm probably more in the middle. But maybe I'm wrong.
Do you guys argue internally with each other about politics, or is it kind of work itself out?
Unceasingly. I don't know if that's a word. No, not really. Most of our political discussions are about, well, lately is this. What are we going to make fun of?
It's a good context. Like, we sat down the other night and we had our first big writing meeting, and it was really interesting to just kind of go through the issues and like talk about the issues. And instead of having to say, you know, like, instead of having to approach it from a party perspective, we're just trying to tear apart the issues and figure out what they are logistically. Like, what is really happening with this issue? What's happening with the big legislative building fiasco up north? You know, what happened with the tennis thing with, you know, Dan Sullivan's tennis debacle, and
how incredulous we can be about just about everything.
Like,
so
yes.
it's just, yeah.
So it's fun to just sort of like unravel these issues and not have to have like a political viewpoint on them, but just trying to find what's funny about them. Yeah.
Okay. You also mentioned as part of your pitch that you were trying to hold people accountable, which is an interesting thing for comedians or you know, people trying to be funny or satirists to do. This is an election year. You know, we've got a lot of officials in state government are up for re-election or election for the first time. There's the oil tax repeal on the ballot coming up. Do you think you could affect these, you know, people's political fortunes or how some of these races and elections go?
I mean, that's really up to people that watch what we make, right? I mean,
yeah, it depends on how many people see it or who looks at it and what they think about when they see it too. It's really impossible for us to say, and I mean, it's not a particular goal of mine to sway something. It's just to make people think about it.
I guess what I'm
not
getting is, like, how do you hold people accountable?
By bringing it to light, by people by talking about the issues and by making fun of them or any other way. I mean,
so if Sean Parnell sends out a campaign newsletter that says that he's freed Alaskans from domestic violence and rape, then you can bring that up in some sort of context, and then people will be like, did he really do that? Would he do that? He wouldn't do that. And then they'd go look it up and they'd find out that he did. And so that's how we might be able to like influence people, because they would hopefully go and like find out if this is a real thing, and then they'd learn more about it, and then maybe be shocked and at least have that knowledge. It's nice to be armed with a little bit of knowledge when you go into vote or when you have a conversation with someone, and so that's
okay. That's a real example of something that did just recently happen, is sort of in the news here and there. Is that going to be up on one of your upcoming shorts in some way?
I don't know. I'm not sure yet. We had our, like I said, we just had our first big writing meeting. We had like a gazillion ideas. I'm very excited about it. We actually do want to have, we talked about having something, I'm not sure if we had a name for it, but I was thinking maybe like boring time. Yeah. We talked about having like getting two really smart people to just get in a room and like talk about an issue for a while, and then have that as kind of external content, and then use clips of it during the show, so that maybe we'd have some, maybe we'd have something with a little more depth to it to accompany the silliness. Like I love absurd comedy, like Monty Python and things like that. So it's going to be hard to balance things that are useful and things that are silly.
Does the accountability issue and, you know, the elections and all the stakes, does that give you any pause when you're writing? Does it you know, push some responsibility on you? Do you feel like you have to be more responsible of what you say or do?
We talked about this just yesterday. I mean,
yeah.
So, and actually this goes back to something that you brought up a while back. we talked about some of our work that we'd done prior to, like in the past years we've done, because we have a media company and we do a lot of website design and video production. And like you brought up the question of have we worked on political campaigns before? And we have. We've done a lot of, like, we worked on the, like you did the YRock campaign, we did the website for the Binkley campaign. Yeah. I mean, as far back as high school, I helped Ann House running her campaign. I helped my dad run for House and lose to Beth Kurtula a couple times. And I mean, thank God. But yeah, we have. We've definitely talked about, you know, how does that fit in? Like, we're not real journalists. So, like, do we have to worry about journalistic integrity? And I think, like, it's more of a case-by-case basis. It's like, if someone is doing something that we care about, we're not going to hold ourselves back from participating in that discussion.
Well, those were state officials they were mentioning. They were name dropping if you weren't following.
Yeah, I know,
lots
aspiring
of state officials. What's your process been for writing and putting these shorts together? We're just getting ready for the first one soon, right?
So we had a couple small writing meetings, and like in the past, that's kind of what we've done is the three of us get together and kick around a few ideas. Then usually, like, I'll go write something and then send it to them, and they'll fix it and make it better. Like,
or we'll just see something on the news and be like, "Did that really happened? We have to do something about that. Just can't ignore that."
My process usually involves randomly coming up with something and then instantly forgetting it, and then sometimes remembering it later, and then we talk about it at the meetings.
Yeah, but for this program, we've kind of assembled a group of writers, and we have like a writing team, I guess, and so it's the three of us and then like 4 or 5 other people, and we're going to meet once a week and just kick around ideas. And that's not necessarily like sitting down and scripting, but that's just sort of like, what's going on? What have you guys heard about this week? What's new in the news? And then we're also actually soliciting ideas from viewers. Like if there's someone that has a hot issue or whatever, we have set up an email hotline. We have hot news tips for you at alaskarobotics.com.
That's with a Z, right?
Yeah, that's news with a Z and the number 4. And anyone can contact us with any current events that they'd like us to bring up, and we'll look into them.
Hot news tips for you.
Yeah.
What do you find yourself scrutinizing? You know, whether your jokes or your writing is fair. You know.
Yes, I do.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, definitely.
Yeah, I look back on it, and like, there's been times when I've been, like, there's been times I've been kind of ashamed of what we've done, but like at the time I was really happy with it. For example, and I don't know if you're going to show it tonight or if I'm getting ahead of myself, but the zombie Ted Stevens thing. So I made a like an animated zombie Ted Stevens thing, and then he died shortly after that. And so I felt kind of bad about that, but then what I felt really bad about was that I like used it again after he died. That was really awful. So so there's, yeah, I do feel sometimes that I am critical of my own work. Yeah.
I guess it'd be in poor taste, but you did it anyways.
Yeah, it's a really bad idea.
And it's still up. It's still up on.
Well, I'm not going to take something down that I've made unless there's like a really good reason for it. But I think that like trying to be sensitive that like people are real people and they have real lives and they have families, and that like sure, if you're a politician, you're putting yourself in the public spotlight and you're going to be the subject of debate and discussion, but like, you know, how far into a person's personal life do you go? And that's something actually really recently, one of the so Gaddis, is that how you pronounce her name?
Lynn Gaddis?
Lynn Gaddis, yeah. So she's been working on like the education issue in the state of Alaska and is coming under some criticism there, but also she has a very personal, private issue that like maybe isn't that personal and private, and so do we talk about that? You know, like her, I mean, you know about this, right?
Her son, I had to stick my foot in my mouth for over that actually. So.
Oh, did you?
A little bit.
Yeah.
For that very reason, it's like, oh yeah, these are real people, and you know, you need to understand that and respect that, and know the consequences of what you say if you're being just, you know, distasteful.
So what do you do in that situation? It's like, this is a thing that's really like ironic and funny and maybe people need to know about, but it's also something that's very personal and private and like awful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how'd you land on that then?
Well, that's what I'm asking you. Tell me.
Well, a little bit different than the news side, so we just try to stay.
We haven't made anything yet.
Okay, I see. Okay. So we have another clip queued up. This was a legislative news update that you guys put out during the 2013 legislative session in the midst of the major oil tax debate over SB 21. That's the big oil tax bill that's still being debated. Well, the bill's passed, but the issue is still being debated. Now it's on the ballot coming up in the fall through the referendum process. So let's take a look at that.
In state news, the governor's controversial oil tax bill is moving through the legislature. Tonight, we're proud to present an exclusive debate on the topic between Governor Sean Parnell and Senator Bill Wielechowski. How are you tonight, Senator Wielechowski?
It's Wielechowski.
Gesundheit. Now, I know you've wanted this debate for a long time. Are you intimidated to be finally facing off against the governor of Alaska?
Not at all. I've got statistics and facts from his own office backing me up. This oil tax bill of his goes way too far. It's a bad idea for Alaska.
Okay, it sounds like he's confident, folks. But can he match wits with the one, the only, Governor Sean Parnell? Governor, are you there, Governor? Okay, well, we could still do the debate. You know the governor's positions pretty well by now. How about you be the governor and I will be you?
Governor Parnell, how can you possibly justify giving $6 billion to the most profitable corporations in the world? You're selling out Alaska.
That doesn't sound like me. That's more like a bad Batman impersonation.
I've heard this bill called a crapshoot. Is that what we're down to? Basing our public policy on a gamble?
Oh, wow. I never thought of it like that. You're right. This bill doesn't make any sense. I just realized that. I'm demanding results from teachers before increasing education funding, but I'm giving the oil industry $6 billion and asking nothing in return? Thank you for opening my eyes, Senator. This was a great debate. You, sir, are a gentleman and a scholar.
Okay, I don't think that's quite what the governor would say.
No, you win the debate, Senator Wielechowski. It was an honor.
All right, that didn't work out quite how I'd imagined it. How about you be you and I'll be the governor?
I don't think so. I kind of like being governor.
Oh, great. Maybe Alaska will buy you a jet.
So that was Pat Race of Alaska Robotics doing some political news shtick with real-life Senator Bill Wielechowski. He's a Democrat from Anchorage and one of Governor Parnell's toughest critics, especially on the oil issue. And I should note that the other side of that argument that Governor Parnell and the bill's supporters would say is that cutting oil taxes is a way of promoting economic growth and looking out kind of long-term for Alaska.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
So how did that come together?
I sent an email to the governor's office asking him if he would come and be on one of our news programs, and never heard back from him. But Bill was great and came down the hill, and he was a lot of fun to work with. I think I first talked to him at one of the rallies they were having outside the Capitol building. I kind of pulled him aside and said, hey, I've got this thing. I don't know if you've seen any of my stuff, but maybe you can come down and be on our little goofy show thing we're doing. And so he was into it, and it was one of those things where we've been doing satire long enough that I think that some of his staffers sort of vouched for us and said, oh, go down there and check this out and try it out. Yeah.
And did you guys write the senator's lines, or did he work with you on it, or how did that actually get written, I guess?
We sent him a script, and he kind of okayed it and looked through it and made sure that it wasn't going to be. And there was a few things we had to take out because they were really concerned that the oil companies would, if he was running for office again, that they would take that excerpt out and use it in a bad smear campaign ad and be like, look what he said about this thing, and totally take it out of context.
He hates babies.
Yeah. So we couldn't put in any. We couldn't. He was really worried about what we would put in there of him saying, because he figured it would be used against him. Yeah.
And did you have anyone else lined up, or have you extended those invitations
for
again this time
for
around?
This show? Yeah. No, actually, we don't. I don't know if we have anyone lined up exactly. I've had some conversations with like Bill Walker's wife is helping with his campaign, and we're going to try and get him in, and like we've got an idea that maybe he would. Well, I don't want to spoil it, but it involves puppies. So I think, he sounded like game. I'd love to work with any of the gubernatorial candidates, any of the legislators. There's 60 of them. I'm sure we'll get someone on board. So it's.
And we've asked Parnell again, so we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah.
Did he give you any kind of formal response to that time? No.
No, I would love to talk to the governor.
Formal response.
Okay. What's your pitch for trying to convince someone, a politician, to be on Alaska Robotics News?
I'd just like to say, like, what are the issues that you're interested in? I'm willing to work with them to go whatever direction they want to go, and like I feel like everyone's got kind of an idea for, like, this issue is absurd because, and so we can take it and we can help them look at what they want to look at, or we can turn it on its head. I don't want to be too disrespectful if we get actual like politicians in the studio. I don't mind making fun of them in other segments, but I don't think I'm going to try and like ambush them or anything like that.
Okay.
Probably.
I don't imagine we would.
Yeah.
I imagine one of the like challenging things about writing satirical news is communicating to the audience when something's real that you're talking about, when something's actually fact and real versus what's farce.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? How do you distinguish for the audience on where the line is between what's made up and what's not?
I think the audience is smart enough to figure it out most of the time.
I don't know. It's hard, but like that's part of what you hope for, is that they will look at something and say, "There's no way this could be true," and they look it up and find out that it is, or that it isn't, and read more about the issue itself. But
well, and everything that we say should be taken with a grain of salt. Like, that's the nice thing about our format, is like we are doing a satire news program, and so please don't run out and like buy canned food and shotguns because you think that we're gonna like, oh no, the end is coming. And so like it's very much in this safe area. And so, and actually I have a huge problem with people that take it outside of that. Like there's the big like fake Shell oil thing where they brought in a bunch of people, like Greenpeace brought in a bunch of people to have this like, to act like they were Shell, and then like have this horrible like media mishap gone wrong, and it turned into a viral video, and like I don't like that kind of thing where you're like even what the yes men do, where they try
represented as truth.
Yeah, where you represent yourself as the truth, and in a context where people will misinterpret it as the truth, and then go and make decisions based on that. So the Yes Men are a satirical group that they will show up at like a conference, or it's really funny, but it's really bad. They'll show up as like an oil executive at a conference, and they'll give a big speech about how, what was the one they did? I'm not even sure how to pronounce it. Bhopal, the big chemical disaster. So they showed up and they apologized for this disaster, which is something the Dow Chemical Corporation is not interested in doing.
Acknowledged. Yeah.
And they've not acknowledged, but they showed up and they were, we're really sorry that we did this, and they finally acknowledged it. But it wasn't Dow, it was like this guy pretending to be a representative from Dow. And so,
and it made big news.
And it made huge news because all the people thought
Dow was accepting responsibility for something that happened that they were not.
Oh, so people were duped into,
Yes.
Yeah, and so I like people being in on the joke. I don't like it when people are not in on the joke. And so like everything we do is kind of in this realm of like, this is our satire news program. Some of it's real, some of it's not.
Okay.
But I'm definitely not trying to like fool anyone. Yeah.
I guess, would you ever entertain, taking your characters, which are you, I guess, out into the world, kind of the way Colbert does with Stephen Colbert? That was one of the examples I had in my mind when I was thinking about that question. Was he founded a super PAC for real? Mm-hmm. He raised money and contributions for real, and he bought airtime in some primary election states for real. In character, though. He filled out all the legal paperwork and jumped through all the hoops he needed to. And I was actually watching this program with a couple of my friends, and I knew which parts were real and which parts weren't. One of my friends wasn't sure what was real and what wasn't, and then one of my friends was convinced it was all bogus. Yeah. So. Well,
we don't really have characters. I mean, like, we're kind of us, and so. And we get a lot of questions. Yeah. I guess we do have kind of that like, hey, hey Lou, how's it going? But I don't.
Just because we're terrible actors.
Yeah, we're not. Yeah, we're not.
That's just them. They talk like that normally.
That's right, Pat.
I like the way you think. I get a lot of questions about like your character, and it's because of Stephen Colbert, and people assume that that's what we're going to try and do, and I don't think that's at all what we're going to try to do. Like I think I will be like a news person, and sometimes we'll play other characters, but I don't think that we're trying to like immerse ourselves into this on-screen, off-screen identity thing.
Okay. So you guys do Alaska Robotics mostly for fun. What are your day jobs?
I don't know. No.
You got anything? I don't.
We work at Lucid Reverie. That's our business arm where we try to make the money. A lot of website and video work.
Lucid Reverie is our business, and it's basically the three of us, and we do website design, video production, and like occasionally media duplication, like computer nerd stuff, out of a small office downtown.
And we also have a gallery downtown where we sell artwork and graphic novels.
And that's under the Alaska Robotics label, right?
Yeah.
And that's where you'll usually find Aaron.
Okay. And you mentioned earlier that you've done some TV and web work for political campaigns.
It's been a while, but yeah.
Are you going to try to avoid conflicts like that while you're doing this? Or how do you separate those potential conflicts between what your professional work is, that you actually make money and get fed on?
Well, I'm not making that much money,
stuff?
but I think it's like I don't know. It depends on if it's really a conflict. I mean, like if someone I care about that has a good ideas runs for office, like I'll probably support them. And I think there are a lot of people. There are a lot of people that work for the state and that are journalists and things like that feel like they have to be politically neutral, and I don't know if that's necessarily like good for society. I'm struggling with that question. There's a great journalist, Andrea Seabrook. Have you heard of her? She does Decoding DC, and her big beef is that journalists give, they try to give equal time, but it's not weighted equally. It's like you've got this like 99% of people have this good rational thing, and you got to go find this 1% guy that like lives in a tree somewhere and interview him and give him equal time, and you start amplifying the extremes that way. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think we're going to try and.
And if we become well known or just known for political satire, I think we're not going to get any political jobs.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to go on like as ourselves and like advocate for someone in character or whatever, like as our as part of the news thing. Yeah. But like we actually I sent out letters to several to all three of the big gubernatorial candidates to ask them if they wanted to support our program, because it's an opportunity for them to advertise. So, I mean, we have some commercial sponsors, and I'd be fine with like after the news when we identify the sponsors of the program. I'd be happy if someone wanted to sponsor it. It doesn't, like I said, no immunity. It doesn't mean that we're not going to like put them under a microscope. But if a campaign wanted to run an ad on our thing, I think we'd accept it. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you get any of that oil money during your Kickstarter campaign?
No, that'd be great though. If you know someone, send them our way.
Right.
Do you know if it's ever, doing Alaska Robotics stuff has ever come back and bit you? Has it ever burned you some way?
Not that I know of.
Not yet. Probably. Oh, I had one awkward moment when I ran into Lisa Murkowski, and I was like, "Oh, hey, I did a video about your dad," and then I was like, "Oh, it was satire, and it was a song about the jet." And okay, well, I have to go. And it was just awkward, but that's about it. Yeah. Okay.
Are you limiting yourself to state official? Or are you going to take on more of the Lisa Murkowskis and Mark Begich's, and are you going to look at the bigger arena than just state government?
I mean, that's kind of part of state government.
Yeah, that's local elections and stuff, state elections. So I don't think we'll hold back from that. But our focus mostly at this point is not on those. But we'll see what happens.
Maybe we get Don Young on the show. That'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, if he wants to come on, we'd be happy to have him.
He's actually a very funny person. Yeah. If you ever hear him speak.
I know. I've seen him in his beanie.
Let's back up. Why don't you guys tell us how you got started, or the Alaska Robotics side of things got started?
Do you remember?
Oh, it was a long time ago. We were,
It was about 2007, right?
yeah.
7.
Yeah, back in '07, we we were just doing the media stuff, and we decided that we wanted to just like do comics and make short films, and so
We wanted to have more fun.
idea of what, without a clear business idea or anything.
yeah, without making a business plan, we fired all of our clients and decided to just pursue our own personal projects. And that lasted for about a year before it was just
Ran
this
out of
steady
money.
like, yeah. And so we did that, and it was great. We didn't produce as much. I think we produced probably the same amount as when we had a whole bunch of clients to keep track of, which was really frustrating. So that was tough, and then we were like, okay, we're gonna jump out of the nest and start flapping our wings and fly, but we did not do that. But actually, it was a really interesting experience. And then when we got done with that, we took on some more clients from our media business that we like invited back some of our favorite clients that we had a lot of fun working with. And then we kind of built from there. And then now we've got the gallery, and we're slowly, incrementally doing what we did before, but doing it a lot better and smarter. Yeah.
And where did the name Alaska Robotics come from?
I don't know. I like making up names for things. So that was
Well, and like one of the things you said that I think is really great is that it's a combination of technology and art is what robots are, and I mean I feel like that's kind of like where we have built from.
I don't know if we should let you pick more names though, because
I know.
Lucid Reverie is
I know.
hard as hell to say on the
That's a great
phone.
one.
And then for
Nobody
Alaska
hears it
Robotics,
right.
everyone says, "Where are the robots? Do you guys do things with robots?"
And then when we're not in state, they're like, "Are you really from Alaska?"
Yeah.
I guess on top of that too, probably confounds it even more is that you do some work with Lego robotics leagues and things like that. Too,
Yeah,
right?
I try to confuse
Sure.
people
Yeah.
wherever I can.
So Pat and Aaron, you guys studied computer science at UAF, right?
Mhm.
That's where you guys met? Where did you
That's
guys
where I
meet?
met Aaron.
Okay.
He says he knows me from like somewhere else. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
I lived in Juneau at the same time he did when we were kids, so I knew who he was. But yes, that was when we became friends.
So you guys are kind of in your wheelhouse of what you studied. Lou, you were also at UAF, right?
I was. I'm a little bit younger than these guys, and I was there for natural resources management with an emphasis in soil, plant, and animal sciences.
And do you do much
Very
with
useful.
soil, plant, and animal
I
sciences
did for a
now?
couple years. I was what I called a tree counter on one of the military bases up in Fairbanks, and did also some fish counting, a lot of counting. But it really wasn't for me.
Did you
And
know while you were in school it wasn't for you? Or did you know this is what you want to be doing?
I don't know what I ever want to be doing. But yeah, this is more like what I want to be doing.
Okay. And you guys
He still
are
has a
doing what you
very
planned
nice
on doing
garden
too?
on the roof. You know, so, yeah.
And are you guys doing what you guys wanted to be doing when you were in school?
Yeah, more and more. Absolutely, definitely.
I mean, back when I was in school, I was expected that I'd program video games or something along those lines. So I'm not doing what I thought I was going to
we
be
can still
doing.
do
But
that.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that.
Okay.
I'm saying I'm not doing what I thought I was going towards at that point in my life.
Okay. So when and where can we start seeing Alaska Robotics news?
It'll be on YouTube and on our website, and then actually for those backers who donated $15 or more, they'll have access to direct downloads of the thing, unless you want to. I mean, in case you want to throw it on an iPhone or something. And we're probably gonna put out our first maybe a shortened preview episode on the 20th, which is the day before the session starts. Session starts, I believe, on the 21st, and so we'll try and get out we're thinking it's kind of a Sports Center preview, like who's the razzle dazzle rookie of the year kind of thing, just to kind of get people up to speed on who's out there
and what they should be looking for. Yeah.
Maybe we should design it after that Sports Machine show.
Oh,
Remember
definitely.
that?
Oh yeah.
The Sports Machine.
Are you going to be recycling a lot of kind of the graphics and things that you used in the past?
I think we're gonna make some new stuff. Probably use a little bit of the old stuff.
I think it really depends on how much we procrastinate.
There'll definitely be some old stuff in there too.
How much time are you putting into this, actually?
Probably quite a bit.
A million years.
An hour here or there.
Well, let's see. So the short films that we've seen tonight probably on average take about, gosh, I don't know, what would you say, 100 man hours? What do you think?
Wow.
Like less than that? 60.
Less
Probably a
than
little
that.
bit less,
But I mean,
yeah.
it's the
But
three of
more than
us
you think,
putting in quite a,
basically.
Yeah.
It's a lot of time and a lot of editing and a lot of, the graphics are really time consuming. So it's, I don't know, it takes a long time to put these things together, and it's a lot of just sort of like twiddling on the computer.
Yeah.
We use After Effects and you know, Adobe Premiere is our primary software. Yeah, it's not as, we don't have
It's not
access
just
to,
like go film in an afternoon and put it
Yeah.
together and like it'll be done. It takes more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
about 2
usually
minutes
like,
is-
it's
doesn't
usually
even
like 3 to
matter.
4 good solid days for us, yeah.
Okay. And what's your rollout schedule? You guys committed to doing 6 over the course of the legislative session, so.
Yeah, every
trying
2
to-
weeks is kind of like the goal to put something out.
Okay. And people should check your YouTube page for that.
Yep, that'd be good. You can
And our
subscribe
webpage,
to it.
yeah,
or-
just alaskarobotics.com, and hopefully people like K2 will pick it up too and start putting
Yeah,
some
I,
of those out.
I think that it'll get embedded. I mean, YouTube's very embeddable, so I think we'll see it in places like the Alaska Dispatch or ADN or K2's website, just on like related stories, or if it's particularly meaningful or timely, then I think that people will pick it up. They've done that before. A lot of the satire pieces we've done have been like rebroadcast, so I'm kind of expecting that'll happen again.
How do you measure success on this? How do you know if you did a good job or not?
If it gets funded next year.
So you are trying to do this again? and
I don't know. I mean, we'll see if it's
It kind of
horrible. or
depends
not.
on how much fun we have and if we like doing this too. I mean, if we've never done something with a set schedule for satire too, so if that feels unwieldy, then maybe we won't. But yeah, at this point, yeah, sure, let's do it next year.
Yeah, if it's a lot of hard work with death threats at the end, then we'll probably not do it. But if it's fun and we enjoy it and we get something out of it, then we'll definitely try and do it next year.
Okay. All right, well, let's move on to questions from the Forum at 360 audience. If you guys here in the studio have a question, just walk on up to the mic and you guys can queue up. And we may be getting some questions from Twitter as well. So
Keep it easy.
anybody got a question? Let me check to see if anyone's tweeting any questions our way. Nope.
Fair enough.
Well, just queue up as you have them.
Well,
Come on,
we,
Ryan.
should we talk in the
What
meantime?
else you guys got?
Yeah, what else do we have? I've been doing a lot of research into like older Alaskan politicians. Like, I recently did an illustration of John, what's his name? Franklin Alexander Strong. He was, I believe, the second territorial governor of the state of Alaska, and he was he had to leave office after 6 years when they found out he was Canadian. And so I'm trying to find, like, I think there's a lot of interesting history in Alaska that we don't always know about.
So we might add a little bit of those little historical shorts now and then, maybe.
Yeah, fun
Or just
historic.
really good names or something too.
Yeah, it's a long name. Okay, looks like we've got a question. Go ahead.
Okay, I was just curious about the little ticker at the bottom of the last few episodes you have. There's a whole lot of content there that isn't part of the main thing. Are you going to continue to do that? And I'd like to just be interested in your process of what you come up with, how you come up with that.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to continue that. Last year when we did those 2 shorts, the ticker was really nice because we didn't have enough time to make a whole series of shorts, but we could kind of throw a bunch of issues into the ticker. And so I think this year we'll, things that maybe don't make it to the main stage will definitely go in the ticker. And probably even some things from audience members. Yeah.
Yeah, and we had like just from our first writing meeting, there were so many ideas that there's no way we're going to make videos of them all. But I think we'll just pull it from more of those writing meetings.
Yeah, it's a great spot for overflow.
The writing meetings, we do come up with a good amount of stuff, but a lot of it might be fueled by the beer. We'll see how funny it actually turns out to be.
The beard?
Yeah.
It looks like we've got another question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering what news feeds, media sources, social media you guys follow, anything that you follow religiously that you use to generate your material.
I've actually been listening to Alaska News Nightly a lot more, but I try to, as far as Alaska news goes, I'm following a lot of people on Twitter. That's really interesting. I think that
Twitter's
that's
good.
kind of a good news aggregate. What do you guys?
But also ADN and Dispatch and the Juneau Empire even, yeah.
Yeah, I get the emails from Alaska Dispatch. That's a really nice service where they send you like an aggregated list of articles for the day. And so you can kind of just scan through the headlines and see if there's something you want to read.
They just tell me stuff.
And then, yeah. So that's really easy.
And
You
he
can do
makes fun of
that.
it.
Yeah. And that's something we talked about too. Is we're going to try and have some of that like extra material attached to our episodes. So if we post an episode, there'll be like a video, and then below it maybe a short description or something like that, and then we'll have some links of, this is where we're drawing our information from. So news articles or documents or things like that, so that people can kind of refer back to them and find out a little more for themselves if they're interested.
Okay. So you kind of got at sort of your media diet. What else do you guys read, or do you have a routine for how you get your news?
Yeah, you guys go ahead.
It's word of mouth and stuff too. I mean, we know people that work up on the Hill, and we like to hear what they're thinking and hearing and seeing and stuff up there too. So there's part of that, but it's the way news works in a small state is a lot of word of mouth.
Yeah.
And the hot news tips for you at alaskarobotics.com.
We'll hopefully start turning things out really soon here.
I read a lot of blogs. I read a lot of like essays. I read Boing Boing is one that I read that's kind of it's sort of eclectic. It has a lot of copyright and intellectual property and like privacy issues and things like that, but it also has a lot of just sort of like, here's a shrimp running on a treadmill and things like that.
The ear and ADN is
the ear and the ADN is great. Yeah, we love the ear.
Are you an earwig?
No, I've never sent anything to the ear, but maybe I will. But yeah, I also read like Ars Technica, which is a lot of like computer nerd stuff. Man, we answered this question so much better than Sarah Palin.
Do you have, on like the Daily Show, they talk about how they have like 17 different TiVos running and following all the different 24-hour news networks. Are you guys going to be shooting some stuff in the Capitol yourselves, or will you be pulling from, Gavel or somewhere else?
We applied for some press passes.
Yeah, we'll see if that sneaks
That's the first step.
But yeah, we filled out paperwork and applied for press passes, so we may be up there shooting. Even if we don't get press passes, I think there will be an opportunity to go up there and shoot. I've definitely been allowed to shoot in the building before on special occasions, and so if not, we'll just be hovering around the outside.
And we'll probably pull some stuff from gavel to gavel and that kind of stuff too, because that's nice that's all on the web now, of like pulling past stuff and whatnot.
I love that the dress code for cameramen is completely different in the Capitol, so jorts
we'll be looking good.
I don't think jorts are allowed in the Capitol.
No, they have. He's referring to the
a little bit of distinction.
Yeah, the cameraman has like a lesser dress code than the other people, so he's excited.
So if you're in front of the camera, then you can't wear jorts, but he can because he's
Why don't you guys have your jorts on?
They can't see them.
Any other questions from you guys? Yeah. Why don't you talk a little bit about some of the tools you use? You mentioned After Effects. This is just kind of prosumer level tools. Like what are you using now compared to what you had been using? What's that evolution been?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of professionals use those.
After Effects since, 2002, up in college?
Yeah.
Yeah, so at least.
Invested in that one pretty good.
Yeah, the Adobe suite is really great. We use the Adobe Production Suite, which has, it comes with Photoshop and After Effects and Illustrator and a whole bunch of
Premiere just to do the straight editing too.
Yeah, a whole slew of programs, and so primarily that's what we use. It's evolved a lot lately, and I don't know if I like the direction it's going. They've changed to a subscription model, which we're still using the latest non-subscription model, and so I don't know if I like this software as a subscription thing yet. We'll see how it goes. I think it's just a gimmick to make more money, but maybe it's good.
One of the things you guys talk a lot about is your facial hair.
You like my beard?
It's just like mine. Aaron, you actually have a distinction in the facial hair world, competitive facial hair world. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so in 2009, the World Beard and Mustache Championships were in Anchorage, and we thought that was just too interesting and too near to miss, so we had to go up and film it. And if we're gonna go up there, we can't just go up there as clean-faced yahoos, or that nobody's gonna
cold chins, please.
Look at us and answer our questions. So we started growing beards, and they didn't take it very seriously, but I grew and ended up competing, and I got second place in my category. And
we're very proud of him.
And what was your category?
The Alaskan Whaler. So it was like a full beard, no mustache.
It was a huge category too. There was a lot of people in that one.
And is that a real category? Is that a real
type? The home team gets to define a category, and so it was a legitimate, real category. And yes.
It has not been continued since then. So
And this is, what is this? What would you call this? Did that have a category?
this would just be
Comic book guy.
full natural.
Yeah, full natural.
Yeah.
Full natural. Okay, anyone else have any questions out there? Really, no?
We talk about beards all day long.
Yeah. Well,
We
we're,
actually oh, sorry.
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say we went to Norway actually a couple of years after that and followed up, and we all competed that year. And
We all lost.
No, we all got fourth place, yeah. If you lose the beard competition, they're all very friendly, so if you lose, you get fourth place.
Everybody ties for fourth. That doesn't get the top three.
Oh, I see. Interesting. Interesting. Okay, that's just about all the time we have. We've been speaking with Pat Race, Aaron Suring, and Lou Logan of Alaska Robotics. Thanks for joining us here on Forum at 360.